what is population growth? Population growth refers to the increase in its size, alright. And how do you actually determine the increase in the size of population? It is determined by the individuals added to the population, alright. First point is by the number of individuals added to the population and the number of individuals lost from the population. So how from a population you will find out the increase in the size of population? You can find it out in terms of addition and in terms of loss of the number of individuals. And when we talk about the addition process, you can find out the addition of the number of individuals in the terms as the number of births plus immigrants. Okay, who are immigrants? Immigrants are the individuals who are going to come or enter into a country or a region permanently. Okay, so they are known as immigrants. So you can find out the addition in terms of births plus immigrants. And when you find out the number of lost individuals, you can find it out in terms of the number of deaths plus emigrants. Okay, emigrants are the individuals who have permanently left a region, a state or a country. Okay, so I can give you an example of immigrants and emigrants. For example, if you talk about immigrants, many people from Nepal and China, they come to India and settle over here. So they are going to be the immigrants and they are going to add on to the population size. Okay, they are going to lead to the addition of the number of individuals into a particular region's population. If we talk about emigrants, we can here give an example of many Indians, go abroad and settle there. So they are emigrants because now they have left the country. So they will actually come under this lost number of individuals, that is deaths plus emigrants. So how can you determine the population size? You can determine by determining the number of individuals added to the population. In which sense? In the sense of births and immigrants. And you can count this individuals who are lost from the population in terms of deaths plus immigrants. Okay, so remember, if we talk about the term immigrants and the emigrants, immigration means the entry of the individuals from some other state, from some other region, from some other country, and emigrants means permanent departure of the individuals from a region, from a state or from a country. Next we will move on to the population growth forms. Okay, what are these population growth forms? Our populations have characteristic patterns of growth with time. So these patterns, which we'll study in the form of growth curves, is very important topic from the examination point of view also. So what are these growth curves? Remember that we are studying growth curves which are a part of population growth forms, and these growth curves are the mathematical expression of the growth of a population from its beginning till it stabilizes. Okay, so you can say from initial state to the stabilized state. This is how a population growth curve is formed. And with reference to population growth, we will study two types of growth curves. Okay, one we have a J-shaped growth curve and the other is an S-shaped growth curve. Now this J-shaped growth curve and S-shaped growth curve have some other names too. J-shaped growth curve is also known as exponential growth curve. Okay, J-shaped growth curve is also known as exponential growth curve, and S-shaped growth curve is also known as sigmoid growth curve. Remember these two different names for J-shaped growth curve and S-shaped growth curve. J-shaped growth curve is also known as exponential growth curve, and S-shaped growth curve is also known as sigmoid growth curve. Now let us recall what we have done. I told you that population growth refers to increase in its size. And how can we determine the number of individuals added? We can determine the number of individuals added by calculating the number of births plus immigrants. Immigrants means who have permanently moved to the region, to our region, supposingly I said. For example, many Nepalis and Chinese come to India, so they are going to add on to the number of individuals in the population. So we can find addition in terms of births and immigrants, okay. And when we talk about lost individuals, you can find this number in terms of deaths and emigrants, okay, who have permanently departed from a region or from a country. And populations have characteristic patterns of growth, and we'll actually study these patterns in the form of growth curves, and these growth curves are mathematical expression of the growth of a population from the beginning till it stabilizes, okay, till its final point. And then we'll be studying two types of growth curve, J-shaped growth curve and S-shaped growth curve. J-shaped growth curve is also known as exponential growth curve, and S-shaped growth curve is also known as a sigmoid growth curve, okay. So we'll be starting with J-shaped growth curve, that is exponential growth curve firstly, okay. As I told you that J-shaped growth curve is also known as exponential growth curve. So this exponential growth curve is represented in this manner, as you can see in this image. So this growth curve is plotted with reference to population size, okay, with time, okay. So population size with time, this graph is plotted, and this J-shaped curve has two phases. One is the lag phase. First is, remember, the lag phase, and the next phase is the exponential phase. One being the lag phase and the other being the exponential phase, okay. So you can see in this graph, the initial beginning of this graph, this represents the lag phase, and this steep, this represents the exponential phase. So where does this type of growth curve actually exist? You know, the example for this is a population of reindeer. When a population of reindeer is actually living in its natural habitat with no predators and plenty of food available, so the reindeer population is going to show a J-shaped growth curve. So remember that a J-shaped growth curve has two phases only. One is the lag phase and the other is exponential phase. What happens in the lag phase? As the reindeer population is being added, so it is going to adapt to the changing environmental conditions. So the lag phase means the phase in which the reindeer is going to adapt itself to the environment, okay. There is no growth at such a pace like in the exponential phase you will see. So there is no such growth because this is the adaptation time. The reindeer is going to take time to adapt the environmental conditions. After it has adapted those environmental conditions, okay, then what is going to happen? There is going to be an exponential phase, this rapid growth phase, as you can see. Why this exponential growth phase? Because there is plenty of food, I told you, no predators, and plenty of food means rapid growth. So this rapid growth is represented in the form of an exponential phase, okay. So the reindeer population is going to have that food, it is going to grow rapidly, it is going to multiply. But since the food will be less at a specific time because the population is increasing, and after some time the food shortage will be there. So what is going to happen? This will lead to finally the mortality of the population, the death of certain individuals in the population, because the food is now going to become scarce. This is how a J-shaped growth curve actually is represented in the form of two phases. Remember, one is the lag phase and other is the exponential phase. What happens in the lag phase? In the lag phase, the reindeer population is just adapting to the changing environmental conditions. And what is happening in the exponential phase? Once the reindeer population is adapted to the changing environmental conditions, what is going to happen? There is going to be rapid growth, as you can see. And this rapid growth is marked by this curve, you can see, okay. So what is going to happen? There will be exponential growth rate over here. But after some time, as the food will be scarce, food shortage will be there, what is going to happen? The population will show mortality. This is how J-shaped growth curve actually is represented. What are the examples you will cite here? First, I told you that it is in the case of reindeer, algal blooms and some insects. So these examples you can cite in the case of J-shaped